Hello and welcome to a special edition of Microsoft Mechanics. Coming up on the show, we're joined by engineering lead Kam VedBrat, who's going to take us on a tour of Windows Virtual Desktop with all the latest updates to the service for admins. So welcome to the show, Kam.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's great to be here.
So thanks for joining us from home today. By the way, we've been following Windows Virtual Desktop super closely on Microsoft Mechanics. And if you're new to WVD, it's a desktop and app virtualization service that's hosted in Azure. Now, as a service, it's more popular than ever with a global acceleration, really, of people working remotely.
That's right. We've seen really staggering adoption in the last few months and really massive growth around the world since we launched. We've been focused on really supporting the momentum of organizations who are trying to use the service to meet the challenge of enabling secure remote work.
And it's really amazing momentum. It sounds like you and the team can really deliver a service at a time when it's most needed.
These are really unprecedented times, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that people have a really great experience with the service. We've been really accelerating our efforts to improve elasticity, to simplify deployment and management, and to optimize latency for our customers all over the world. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier this year when we had first started improving latency by delivering new control plane instances in the United States, in Europe, Japan, Australia, Asia Pacific, and Brazil. But since then, we've expanded our optimization to include South Africa, the UK, France, Germany, Norway, and Korea. And by the end of the year, we'll have optimizations in the United Arab Emirates, as well as in Canada and Switzerland. So we're constantly monitoring the service on the back end to make sure that we can keep optimizing WVD based on usage.
And that really sounds like great peace of mind for people who are counting on performance.
Absolutely. It's a ton of expansion in a really short period of time, but we're keeping up with it. Now, I want to talk about one more thing, which is for governance and compliance. We're adding the ability to store your service metadata in different geographies. We're starting in Europe, which we'll have by the end of the year, but we'll have more geos soon after.
And I can't wait to see where the service is going to be in the next couple of months. And this is all really great news, I think, for everyone watching. But I also saw the much anticipated Microsoft Teams AV redirect also went generally available recently. Also great timing for all of us who have to work remotely.
That's right. We're super excited about this one. Microsoft Teams AV redirect is now generally available. So if you haven't seen how this works, what we do is instead of having audio and video move between the hosted VMs, it creates a direct connection using WebRTC between your physical endpoints. And this dramatically improves latency and reduces CPU usage, which lowers cost. Let me put this in context for you. If we look in Task Manager, you'll see that the Teams process is staying around 12 to 15% of CPU in an unoptimized environment. And here we have it in an optimized environment, and Teams is staying under 1% of CPU on average.
Yeah, and that's really a huge difference, around 1/15 of CPU utilization. So as I like to say that this is mechanics, so for all the admins that are watching, I know that we've really streamlined the setup experience. Can you show us what that looks like now?
Absolutely. We've done a ton of work to make deployment easier with a new QuickStart, which you can find at aka.ms/WVD QuickStart. It takes you through three main steps to get up and running. First, we walk you through your prereqs. You need an Azure subscription with the right level of admin privileges. You have to get your Active Directory set up to work with Windows Virtual Desktop. And we have to make sure that your Azure subscription can connect to your on-premises network with a VNet in Azure. Second, we automate provisioning of your host pool with an Azure Resource Manager template along with Azure DevOps. And this creates your Windows Virtual Desktop environment. Finally, the DevOps pipeline will populate your environment by adding users, application groups, and assigning resources.
Right, and this should really speed things up as you provision Windows Virtual Desktop for the first time. So now with the service up and running, why don't we fast forward a few months in to day-to-day operations? What's new there?
Sure, well, that's where service monitoring comes in. We've built a dashboard with all the essential KPIs to monitor user experience and performance. It also lets you set up alerts for situations where you need to take action. For example, here's a nice overview with alerts, health summaries, and usage trends. If I drill into host diagnostics, I can see things like CPU usage and memory utilization. These are great insights into the user experience that you can use to take action to improve your deployment based on your usage patterns. For example, you may want to reduce users per VM based on high CPU activity, or increase density on underutilized VMs in order to save costs. And you can also make decisions about where to locate resources like VMs or storage to help improve performance.
Right, and that makes a lot of sense, and it's something a lot of people I know have been asking for, but what about image management and where those files are actually located and kept? They're often 30 or 50 or gigabytes or more that you'd have to move around typically.
Well, for that problem, we now hook in to the Azure Image Gallery service. So you can easily build and replicate your VM images across regions to speed up provisioning. So you can see here, as you build an image in the shared image gallery, you can define the target regions that are needed for replication. So in this case, I'll take South Africa. And if we add images to this gallery, they'll be nice and close in the regions where they get provisioned.
Right, and one note here to be clear, this is something that was enabled with the new Azure Resource Manager-based provisioning model for WVD. So if you deployed Windows Virtual Desktop using the original process, you'll want to migrate to the newer model. But now, once you're up and running, what are we doing to make things easier then on the management front?
Yes, so we've partnered with the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team, and we've made a lot of really great progress together. First, Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session support is coming to Microsoft Endpoint Manager for hybrid AAD joined VMs. And this will really help with policy management and security configuration. Let me show you a little bit of what's coming. As you can see here in the MEM Admin Center, this is a device list that has physical devices and hosted virtual machines. So you can make sure that your Windows Virtual Desktop VMs are fully compliant with all the rest of your managed Windows 10 devices. And if we look at administrative templates, you'll see this gets even better with MEM's ADMX-backed policies. It has super granular controls that are built in and always up to date for Office, Windows, and Edge. And you can even upload ADMX policies for third-party apps. This will be very familiar if you're already running on-prem remote desktop environments at scale.
Okay, and as a result, there's only one place you need to go to configure and manage device policy for Windows 10 and see their compliance status along with all the rest of your managed devices.
That's right. And you can see that in MEM, you're also able to use it for software distribution. So for shared VMs, you'll either have apps in the image, or you can customize the apps that people see with MSIX App Attach.
One more note there, if you're using Configuration Manager, it can also be used to manage Windows Virtual Desktop VMs. But Kam, since you brought it up, it's one of my favorite things, MSIX App Attach. Can you tell us what's new there?
Yeah, so we've covered a little bit of how MSIX App Attach works before on Mechanics, but let me just recap the concept. What it does is it really lets you separate the app layer from the rest of Windows. So you can then attach externally stored application packages instantly when the user logs in. This means you can have a slim virtual desktop image and customize the apps that are available for each user. The list of apps will follow the user around as they get assigned from one VM to the next.
Okay, and I know for a few months we've had this documented and you can use a scripted approach, but can you show us now how this is working currently?
Sure. So let me start in a virtual machine. Here I am in a session host. And if you look in the apps in the start menu, I'm going to look for Notepad++, and you can see it's not there. So now I'm going to add the MSIX package with a brand new experience that we've been working on in the portal. I'll add an app. Now I'll paste in my package location, which is a VHD file in this case. It can contain one or more MSIX packages. I'll choose Notepad++, paste in the friendly display name, the path to the icon file that I want to display. I'll add the icon index, 0, and an optional description. So now it's configured in the host pool with the two other packages. Finally, and as with any other app, I'll make sure that I've added it to my application group, and it should be available in my VM. So let's check. Now, if I open the start menu again, you'll see Notepad++, and then launch it, and you see it works. And you saw it only took a few seconds to set up.
Right, and this is still something that blows my mind every time I see it. So we're not streaming or caching the binaries into the VM like you might expect. They actually stay remote and get attached, like Kam said. So now we've got Windows Virtual Desktop up and running, what can our admins do now to save costs?
Well, there are a couple things you can do. First, if you're using persistent personal VMs and your users don't need to be local admins, you really should look into using Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session. Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session allows you to put multiple users on the same virtual machine at the same time to keep costs lower. And because it's a client OS, your client apps just work as is. We've also been evolving our scaling automation to help you manage costs. As we've seen in previous mechanics sessions, we've talked about the different approaches to breadth and depth scaling that help you optimize for end user performance or lower costs through higher per VM utilization. Now, to help with elasticity, we've improved our auto scaling with Azure Automation, so you can easily spin up more VMs when you need them. You can find guidance on setting this up at aka.ms/WVD autoscale. Finally, one more thing I want to show you that I'm really excited about is a new feature we've been working on called Start VM on Connect. This allows you to enable the service to automatically turn on deallocated VMs when the user tries to connect. That way, you aren't paying for idle VMs that aren't being used, but you can still get your users their resources when they need them.
These are all really great ways to keep costs down. It's great to see all the updates with the usage that we're seeing across Windows Virtual Desktop for secure remote work. Now, for those who haven't started and want to learn more about WVD, what do you recommend?
Well, we've just updated our learning path for Windows Virtual Desktop to walk through the new setup and management processes. You can check all of that out at aka.ms/learnwvd. And of course, you should try it out for yourself. Use the QuickStart at aka.ms/WVD QuickStart to save time.
Thanks, Kam, for joining us today, and hopefully we answered all of your questions. Of course, keep checking back to Microsoft Mechanics for the latest updates. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for joining us today.